The Galactic Council had always prided itself on its power to maintain peace across the stars. For centuries, its members, an alliance of the galaxy's most advanced species, had worked together to ensure that no conflict tore apart their delicate balance of power. Their leaders were known for their wisdom, their ability to negotiate, and their strength in battle. Every race within the Council followed the established order, where diplomacy reigned and disputes were settled around a table, not in the heat of war. But when humanity entered the galaxy's fold, things began to change. The humans were a curious species, young, full of energy, and surprisingly advanced in technology. Yet their most puzzling trait was their refusal to follow the usual methods of galactic engagement. The moment the humans made their appearance in the galaxy, the Galactic Council had been eager to meet them. They expected to form new alliances, to welcome humanity into their fold, and to extend the hand of peace. But instead, the humans had responded with nothing but silence. At first, the Council believed it was a misunderstanding. Surely the humans had simply failed to respond to the call for a diplomatic meeting. It had happened before with other species. Miscommunications were common when dealing with races from different corners of the universe. They had sent more messages, extended more invitations, and hoped that the humans would soon arrive with their representatives to sit down and discuss terms. But there was no reply. No human ships arrived, and no human leaders stepped forward to speak. As weeks passed, the Council's patience began to wear thin. Their ambassadors, highly trained diplomats who had spent years perfecting the art of intergalactic negotiations, began to grow frustrated. The humans had ignored their calls for too long. What was happening on Earth? Why weren't they responding? The once calm leaders of the Council now gathered in emergency meetings, trying to make sense of the situation. "The humans are delaying for a reason," said Tharkar, the mighty leader of the Andorian Empire, a massive species known for their ferocity in battle. "They must be testing our resolve." "Yes," agreed Aaliyah, the sharp-witted representative of the Vulkar race, known for their intellectual superiority. "They are playing some kind of game. But what's the end goal? What do they want from us?" The leaders were perplexed. The human species had been discovered less than a year ago, and already they seemed to be rejecting the very notion of cooperation. Their fleet was large, but still only a small fraction of the forces the Council commanded. So why were they acting as though they held the upper hand? The very thought was unthinkable. No species, no matter how advanced, would dare challenge the established order of the galaxy. "We must find out what they want," said Zarnak, the ancient representative of the Turvoks. His race was known for their wisdom and long lives, but even his usually steady voice betrayed his growing concern. "It is time we make direct contact. We cannot wait any longer." A special envoy was selected, one of the most respected diplomats in the galaxy, Commander Thera of the Vraktar Union. She had negotiated treaties with dozens of species across the galaxy, earning the respect of everyone who had ever worked with her. Her calm demeanor and understanding of alien cultures made her the perfect choice for the delicate task of meeting with humanity. Thera's ship, a sleek and powerful vessel designed for deep space communication, traveled swiftly through the vastness of space. The human territory was far away, at the edge of Council space. The Council's leaders waited in anticipation, hoping that this time, humanity would meet them halfway. When Thera arrived at Earth's outer orbit, she sent a message, a formal invitation, requesting a face-to-face meeting. The humans had always been unpredictable, but surely they would respond to the most basic of diplomatic gestures, wouldn't they? But once again, silence greeted her. She waited, and waited. Days passed, then weeks, and still no reply came. The commander's unease grew as she waited in the cold emptiness of space. The human ships remained motionless in the distance, as though they were completely ignoring her presence. No communication came, no signals, no messages, nothing. What was happening? Had something gone wrong? Was there some kind of political turmoil on Earth that prevented them from answering? Commander Thera couldn't help but wonder. The longer she waited, The more the tension in her chest grew. She attempted to send more messages, direct communications, even a signal to their military forces requesting a simple acknowledgement. Still, nothing. It was as though the humans were actively avoiding contact. But why? "I'm afraid something is amiss," Thera muttered to herself, her voice barely audible in the quiet of her command ship. "This is no accident." Back at the Galactic Council headquarters, panic began to set in. The representatives were growing restless. Every day without word from the humans seemed like another day of uncertainty. Some factions within the council began to believe that humanity's silence was a declaration of war. Others feared that the humans were planning something far more dangerous, something the council wasn't prepared for. "No species has ever ignored us like this," Tharkar growled, his massive frame shaking with anger. "They're either too afraid to confront us or they think they are too powerful to engage. Either way, we cannot let this continue." As the council debated their next move, Thera made a shocking discovery. She had intercepted a transmission. It was a human transmission, but it was encrypted. With her expertise, she managed to decode the message. It was simple, direct, and chilling. "We don't negotiate, we don't beg, and we don't surrender." The message sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council. It wasn't a threat of war, it wasn't a call for peace, it was a declaration of independence. The humans didn't want diplomacy. They didn't want to be part of the Galactic Council. They were rejecting it outright. And now the entire galaxy was left to wonder, what would happen next? What could they do when faced with a species that refused to bend, refused to negotiate, and refused to even listen to reason? The panic had only just begun. The silence was deafening. It had been weeks since Commander Thera had last made contact with the human forces in Earth's orbit. Her ship remained in the vast emptiness of space, floating just outside the human border. She had sent multiple signals, each more urgent than the last. Yet the silence persisted. There was no response, no sign that the humans were even aware of her presence. This wasn't a misunderstanding, nor was it an error in communication. This was something far more troubling. Thera stared out of her ship's observation window, watching the cold emptiness of space. Her ship was a marvel of Raktar engineering, a sleek silver vessel capable of reaching the farthest reaches of the galaxy in record time. But right now, it felt small, insignificant. She had dealt with alien species from every corner of the galaxy, from the towering warlike Krithians to the calm, peaceful beings of the Illyrians. Yet nothing prepared her for this. Nothing had prepared her for humanity's utter refusal to even acknowledge her. Her mission had been clear. Establish first contact, initiate peaceful negotiations, and lay the groundwork for a lasting alliance between humanity and the Galactic Council. But now, weeks had passed and the humans were doing the unthinkable. They were avoiding her. "Why aren't they responding?" Thera muttered to herself, her voice barely audible in the empty control room. She had sent dozens of messages. Standard communication signals, personal messages, even encrypted ones. All left unanswered. The human ships, massive in size and bristling with advanced weaponry, hovered motionless in the distance, like silent sentinels, watching her, but offering no indication that they had heard her messages. She leaned forward in her seat, her brow furrowing in concentration. The longer the silence stretched on, the more uneasy she became. It was unheard of for any race, let alone one so newly introduced to the galaxy, to ignore the Galactic Council in such a manner. And yet here she was, stuck in the middle of an intergalactic diplomatic crisis with no way forward. In a sudden burst of frustration, Thera punched a command into her console, sending another encrypted message to the humans. This time, it was different. She didn't just ask for a meeting. She demanded one. "Human fleet, you are to respond immediately to this message. The Galactic Council requests your presence for a diplomatic meeting at the earliest possible convenience. Failure to comply will be seen as a refusal to engage with the Council, and you will be held responsible for the consequences." As soon as she sent the message, she felt a wave of doubt wash over her. Was this the right approach? Was this really the best way to reach them? Her years of diplomatic training had taught her that subtlety was key. Aggression, even in a mild form, could backfire in ways that were often hard to predict. But there was no time for subtlety now. The silence had lasted long enough. The council needed answers. They had to know why the humans, this young and mysterious species, were refusing to engage. Thera didn't know what to expect from them, but she knew one thing for sure. The longer this silence continued, the more it threatened to destabilize the entire galaxy. Back at the Galactic Council headquarters, the situation was rapidly escalating. The leaders of the council convened once again, this time in a more urgent and tense atmosphere. The council chambers, a grand hall lined with the representatives of various alien species, was filled with murmurs of confusion and concern. Tharkar, the leader of the Andorian Empire, stood at the front of the room. His towering form filled the space as his deep voice resonated across the chamber. "This is unacceptable," he growled. "We've extended every possible offer and they still refuse to engage. It's clear they are either too ignorant or too arrogant to realize the importance of their place within the Galactic Council." "I don't think it's ignorance," said Aaliyah, the sharp-witted representative from the Volcar race. "I think they are sending a message, a very clear one." "Perhaps," Zarnak, the ancient representative of the Turvox, said with a deep, rumbling voice. "But what message are we supposed to take from their silence? What are they really saying?" "I've studied human history. They are a species known for their resilience but also their pride. They might be testing us. They might be testing the very limits of our patience. What if they are preparing for war?" Tharkar interjected, his voice tinged with anger. "If that's their plan, we should strike first." Aaliyah raised a hand, signaling for calm. "No, Tharkar. We cannot afford to act rashly. We don't know enough about their intentions to make that kind of decision. If we strike without reason, we risk pushing them into conflict. And if they're truly as strong as we've heard, we will be destroyed." "I agree with Aaliyah," Zarnak said. "We must be careful. We must approach this with wisdom, not brute force. Perhaps we should send another envoy to Earth, someone who can get to the heart of the matter." Thera's face flashed across the holographic display in the center of the chamber. She had returned from her mission and was now waiting in the wings for her next orders. "The situation is dire." Thera's voice echoed through the chamber. "The humans are not responding. We cannot continue waiting forever. Their ships are positioned in such a way that they could strike at any time." "Are you suggesting that they are preparing for war?" Tharkar demanded, his posture stiffening. "No," Thera replied, shaking her head. "I don't think it's that simple. I believe they are watching us, waiting for something." "Waiting for what?" Aaliyah asked, her voice sharp with curiosity. "I don't know yet," Thera admitted, "but I intend to find out." The council fell silent, the weight of the situation hanging over them. No one could deny the growing sense of urgency. The humans had been silent for far too long, and no one could say what their true intentions were. Meanwhile, in the dark corridors of Earth's star system, the humans continued their quiet watch, their ships floating motionless. For now, they remained a mystery, an enigma in the heart of the galaxy. And no one knew when or if they would make their next move. The Galactic Council had been left in a state of unease ever since the humans refused to engage in any form of diplomacy. The silence from their fleet was unsettling, and no one could predict what they would do next. In an attempt to understand the true intentions of this mysterious species, the Council decided to send a group of covert agents to Earth. The hope was that they could uncover the truth about humanity and what was really happening on their homeworld. The agents, carefully selected from across the galaxy, were the best at what they did. Experts in intelligence gathering and infiltration, they had experience in investigating even the most secretive civilizations. Their mission was simple: get to Earth, find out what humanity was planning, and report back to the Council with any information that could help them negotiate, or if necessary, prepare for war. The agents traveled in secrecy, cloaking their ships as they made their way to Earth. The journey was long, taking them through unfamiliar star systems, But they remained, focused on their mission. As they approached Earth's orbit, they were careful not to alert the humans to their presence. They didn't know how the humans would react, and they couldn't afford to make a mistake. Once they entered Earth's atmosphere, they began their investigation. The agents split into small teams and dispersed across various continents. Some went to major cities, others to the more remote regions, hoping to find clues about human behavior. Earth was a beautiful planet, full of life and energy, but it was also a world that had been shaped by constant conflict. The agents quickly realized that humanity's history was a turbulent one, filled with wars, struggles, and moments of great resilience. "Look at this," said one of the agents. His voice filled with awe as he scanned through Earth's historical records. He was stationed in a research facility in the heart of Asia, studying ancient human wars. These humans fought for centuries, constantly warring with one another only to come out stronger each time. Their history is one of survival against all odds. Another agent stationed in a different region reported back with similar findings. They've been to the brink of destruction multiple times, and yet they always seem to come back. It's like nothing can truly break them. The more the agents learned about humanity, the more they understood why the Galactic Council was struggling to deal with them. Humans were unlike any species they had encountered before. Their history was marked by violence, yes, but it was also filled with moments of incredible innovation and determination. Humans had fought wars and endured hardships that would have crushed other civilizations, yet they had always found a way to rebuild and thrive. One agent, a member of the Larisian species known for their sharp intellect, carefully analyzed Earth's technological progress. "Their advancements are impressive," she said. "They've only been part of the galactic community for a short time, yet they've managed to create powerful warships and weapons that could rival even the best of us. But they're still so young in their development. It doesn't make sense." They delved deeper into Earth's political landscape. The agents discovered something even more troubling. Humans, despite their advanced technology, were incredibly independent. They had never been part of a galactic alliance before, and many on Earth didn't even know about the Galactic Council. To them, the idea of cooperating with alien species was foreign, and most humans were highly skeptical of anything that didn't come from their own world. "They don't trust us," another agent reported, this time from a communication station in North America. "There's a deep sense of suspicion and fear toward outsiders. They're used to fighting their own battles, and they don't seem interested in letting anyone else into their affairs." The agents also uncovered information about humanity's leadership. There was no singular leader, but rather a collection of governments, organizations, and powerful figures that made decisions on behalf of Earth. It was a complex system with many competing interests. Some factions sought peaceful coexistence with other species, while others, mainly military leaders, believed humanity should remain isolated and independent. The agents couldn't figure out which group held the most influence. Some humans were eager for diplomacy, but most seemed to feel more comfortable with their own strength. "There's no clear leader," one agent concluded. "It's a fragmented society, divided on what direction to take. Some want to join the galactic community, but others believe humanity should stay isolated." Back in the Galactic Council's headquarters, the agents began to transmit their findings. What they discovered only added to the uncertainty surrounding humanity. The humans had been shaped by centuries of conflict, and their resilience made them a dangerous force. Yet they were also wary of outsiders, suspicious of any influence that came from beyond their borders. "Humanity is not like us," Zarnak, the ancient representative of the Turvoks, said solemnly. "They do not seek to join us out of a desire for peace. They are strong, proud, and self-reliant. They are not like the species we have dealt with before." Thera, the diplomat who had first encountered humanity, leaned forward in her seat, her voice grave. "Their silence, their refusal to communicate, it's not a threat of war. It's a statement. They are telling us that they don't need us, and they don't want to be part of our galaxy. But why? Why would they reject the peace we offer?" Council's leaders sat in silence, deep in thought. The humans had always been a mystery, but now they were something far more complex. The agents' reports had confirmed that humanity was not interested in joining the Galactic Council under any circumstances. They didn't trust alien species, and they didn't want to be part of any alliance. The more the Council learned, the clearer it became that humanity would not follow the traditional path of diplomacy. "We must prepare for the worst," Tharkar, the Andorian leader, said. "The humans have made their intentions clear. They are not interested in peace. They are only interested in their own survival." But even as he spoke, a new message arrived from Earth, an encrypted transmission, too sophisticated for the Council to decode easily. The message was short but chilling. "We don't negotiate, we don't beg, and we don't surrender." The Galactic Council was left in stunned silence. The silence from humanity had stretched on for weeks. The Galactic Council had tried everything. They had sent envoys, issued calls for diplomacy, and tried to understand the humans' reasoning, but still, there was no response. The atmosphere on the Council's capital planet had grown tense. For the first time in centuries, a species had refused the offer of peace, and the implications of this refusal were far-reaching. Then, one day, everything changed. The humans made their move. It wasn't through communication, nor was it through the diplomatic channels they had been offered. No, it was much simpler and much more terrifying. A human warship appeared at the edge of the Galactic Council's space, a massive vessel, sleek and angular. It was unlike anything the Council had seen before. At first, the ship was just a blip on the radar, easily dismissed as another unidentified vessel. But as it drew closer, the Council's sensors detected its incredible power. This was no ordinary ship. This was a warship of unimaginable strength. Its weapons were hidden, but its size and design told a different story. It was a show of force, and it was aimed directly at the heart of the Council's territory. The warship, known as the Vigilance, made its way through space, silent and steady, as if it were on a routine patrol. But the moment it entered the Galactic Council's border, its presence became undeniable. The Council's high alert system blared, warning all ships within range of an approaching enemy. Inside the Council's command center, the leaders stood frozen as they watched the ship's movements. The usual calm and collected demeanor of the Council members began to slip. They knew this was no coincidence. The Vigilance was sending a message. Human warship detected, approaching at high speed. One of the officers in the command center reported, her voice strained. "It's showing no signs of slowing down, nor is it responding to our signals." The room fell into an eerie silence. It was clear that the Vigilance was not here for a conversation. The ship's course was precise and deliberate, as if it had a singular goal. The Galactic Council had never faced anything like this before. A ship of such strength, with weapons that could obliterate fleets, making its way toward their territory without so much as a word. "We cannot allow this," Tharkar, the leader of the Andorian Empire, growled. "We must respond immediately. If they refuse to listen to our offers of diplomacy, then we must show them that we won't stand for this aggression." "Wait," Aliyah, the representative from the Vulcar race, said, her voice calm but firm. "We don't know what their intentions are yet. If they are here to negotiate as humans do, we might have to reconsider. If we act too hastily, we could make matters worse." Zarnak, the Turvox leader, nodded in agreement. "We need to approach this carefully. The humans do not think like us. They may be testing our resolve, but we cannot assume they are hostile, without understanding their true intentions." Despite their words, the Council couldn't ignore the feeling of impending danger that was growing with each passing second. The Vigilance was now within range, and its dark silhouette loomed ominously against the backdrop of stars. There was something unsettling about its very presence, a quiet power that seemed to radiate from the ship like a storm on the horizon. On the Vigilance, the human captain, a seasoned veteran named Captain Marcus Holt, stood in the ship's command center, watching the massive display of the approaching Council ships. He had received orders from Earth's government, but those orders were simple. Show them what humanity was capable of. No more begging for alliances, no more weak gestures. Humanity would stand tall, and the galaxy would either respect them or learn to fear them. Captain Holt knew the stakes were high. The Vigilance was armed with some of the most advanced weaponry humanity had ever created. It had been designed to intimidate, to demonstrate humanity's strength without the need for words. It was a direct response to the Galactic Council's refusal to acknowledge their autonomy. "Prepare the weapons," Holt said, his voice calm and steady. "We're here to make a statement, not to fight. But if they provoke us, we'll defend ourselves." The crew of the Vigilance moved swiftly, readying the ship's weapon systems. The human warship was a masterpiece of design and firepower, equipped with energy cannons capable of destroying entire fleets. It was far more advanced than anything the Council had expected from a species so newly integrated into the galaxy. And yet, here it was, standing in front of them, a symbol of human defiance. As the Vigilance closed in on the Council's capital, the Galactic Council finally responded. They had no choice. The silence was over. The moment of truth had arrived. "We will not back down," Tharkar said, his voice booming across the Council's chambers. "We will show them that we are not to be intimidated. Their power means nothing to us if they refuse to engage peacefully." The Council's fleet, a powerful collection of ships from across the galaxy, began to mobilize. But even as they prepared for a potential conflict, there was still uncertainty in the air. They had faced many powerful enemies before, but none like humanity. The humans didn't seem to fear the Council. They didn't even seem interested in diplomacy, and that was what made them so dangerous. "Let's not forget," Zarnak said, his voice filled with wisdom. "The humans are not like us. They are a species shaped by conflict, by survival. They are willing to go to great lengths to protect their independence. We cannot expect them to behave as we do." The Vigilance drew closer, and the tension reached a breaking point. The Council's fleet stood ready, their weapons primed and their ships at the ready. It was a standoff of unimaginable proportions, one that would determine the future of humanity's place in the galaxy. At that moment, Captain Holt's voice echoed across the communications channel, loud and clear. "This is Captain Marcus Holt of the Vigilance. You've ignored our messages, but we're here to make it clear that humanity will not bow to anyone. We are not here to beg. We are here to claim our place in the stars. You can choose to respect us, or you can choose to face the consequences." Message was clear. Humanity was done with diplomacy. They had come to prove their strength, and they would not leave until the galaxy acknowledged their place among the stars. And just like that, the Council's worst fears were confirmed. The humans were not here to negotiate. They were here to dominate. The Galactic Council was in chaos. The Vigilance, humanity's warship, had just sent shockwaves through the galaxy, and its clear message had reached every corner of the Council's influence. There was no mistaking it. Humanity wasn't interested in peaceful negotiations. They were here to prove a point, and they weren't afraid to use force to make their demands known. The Council chambers, usually a place of calm discussion and decision-making, were now filled with shouting and heated debate. The representatives from each species were arguing fiercely, their voices rising above the usual calm. The Council was at a crossroads, unsure of how to proceed with a species that refused to follow the established rules of galactic diplomacy. "We cannot allow this to continue," Tharkar, the leader of the Andorian Empire, roared. His usually controlled demeanor was now overshadowed by the anger and fear that had taken over him. "The humans have shown their power, and now they expect us to kneel before them. This is an insult to everything we stand for." "I agree." Aliyah, the sharp-witted representative of the Vulcar race, said, her voice filled with frustration. "We cannot let them dictate terms like this, but we must be careful. If they are this strong, attacking them head-on could be disastrous." The Rai Council members shifted uneasily in their seats. There was no clear path forward. For centuries, the Galactic Council had been a beacon of peace and strength. But now, one small species had shattered that sense of security. Humanity's refusal to engage on their terms was a direct challenge to the entire Council's authority. Zarnak, the ancient leader of the Turvoks, was the first to speak after a long silence. His race was known for their wisdom, and his voice carried a weight that demanded attention. "We must understand them before we act," This is not an ordinary situation. The humans are not like any species we've encountered before. They are strong, independent, and proud, but that is also their greatest weakness. What do you mean? Tharkar asked, his tone still full of suspicion. They fear us, but they also despise being controlled? Zarnak replied slowly. The humans are not accustomed to submitting to anyone, and the more we try to force them into our way of life, the more they will resist. We need to find a way to show them that we are not their enemies, that we are not here to dominate them, but to understand them. It's too late for that, Tharkar said, his voice grim. They've already made their point, and now it's a matter of who will bend first. If we show any weakness, they will think they have won. Maybe it's time to consider an alliance with them, Aliyah said, her eyes narrowing thoughtfully. What if, instead of fighting them, we offered them something they couldn't refuse? A place at the table, a seat among us, if they want. To be independent, they can do so, but they must be part of the galaxy. An alliance? Tharkar scoffed. We've tried diplomacy, and they've rejected it. Why would they accept an alliance now? They've shown they don't want us involved in their affairs. I'm not suggesting we offer them an alliance right away, Aliyah said, her voice firm. What I am suggesting is that we approach them from a position of respect, not authority. They have a different way of thinking. Instead of trying to force them into our system, we need to understand them and find a way to meet them halfway. The discussion continued late into the night. The council was torn between the option of escalating the situation and preparing for battle, or finding a way to offer humanity a new role within the galactic community. Every argument was met with resistance. Every idea met with skepticism. No one knew how to proceed. The stakes had never been higher. Back on Earth, the vigilance remained silent. Captain Marcus Holt stood in the command center of the warship, his hands clasped behind his back as he stared out into the vastness of space. His crew was ready, waiting for the council to make their move. Holt had been given a clear mission: show the galaxy that humanity would no longer tolerate being pushed around. And yet, even as he prepared for whatever might come next, there was something inside him that told him this situation wasn't just about power. It was about survival. Captain, we've received another communication from the Galactic Council, the communications officer reported. Her voice was steady, but Holt could hear the tension in her words. Play it, he replied, his voice calm but resolute. The message came through, clear and direct. It was a formal request from the Council to meet and discuss the future of humanity's relationship with the galaxy. It wasn't an offer of surrender, but it was a shift, a recognition that humanity was no longer a side player in this grand game. We want to know your terms, the message said. We understand that you are a force to be reckoned with, but we are not your enemies. We are willing to find a way to coexist. Holt stared at the message, the words echoing in his mind. The Galactic Council was willing to talk, but was it too late? Had the damage been done? He knew that humanity's place in the galaxy wasn't just about power. It was about standing firm, proving they belonged. But even now, Holt understood that the Council would never see humanity in the same light again. We'll send a response, Holt said, his voice cold. But it's not going to be easy. They've underestimated us from the start. Let's make sure they understand that. We won't be pushed around anymore. He turned to his crew. Prepare for the next phase. We won't let them think we're a species they can control. Meanwhile, in the council chambers, the tension was palpable. The message from humanity had thrown everything into disarray. The leaders were unsure of how to proceed. They had always maintained control, but now they had to deal with a species that had the power to challenge them. The next steps were critical. We need to send a message of our own, Tharkar said, his voice filled with determination. We can't let them think that they've won. But we also can't afford to escalate this any further. If we act with too much force, we risk losing everything. I agree, Zarnak said. We must find a way to show them that we are willing to cooperate, but also that we will not back down. The council was at a turning point. Humanity's refusal to bow to them had shaken their foundation, and now they had to decide whether to fight or to negotiate. The fate of the galaxy, and, The future of humanity hung in the balance.